Your
Yeah, I think we're ready. Just to let you know, we have our committee members up, in front here,
okay.
And then in the back we have our other representatives on the floor, waiting to see if the bill makes it to a floor vote.
Okay, terrific, good. Well,
so these are committee members.
The committee members are up front.
Okay, fantastic.
So we're before we get started, I'm just going to introduce Kim Clausen today, if I could. Kim is an excellent lobbyist, contract lobbyist for several really high profile and important companies, including Verizon, the one that I work for. So Kim's clients include Amazon, Delta Airlines, Starbucks, Puget Sound Energy, and more than that, I know, Kim.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's.
Have you heard of any of those?
Yep.
So you got the heavy hitter here today to join
No.
me. So anyway, so today I'm glad I see we have our committee members here. And Kim, just so you know, this is Open Window School, middle school in Bellevue. A bunch of sharp kids. You'll see that as we go. And
Are you guys 8th graders?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I have an 8th grade daughter. She goes to school in Seattle at Eckstein Middle School.
Excellent. Well, then you'll know what they're like.
And that's Corey Paulson, who's the teacher of this class. So Corey, meet Kim.
Hi.
So now, just before we get started, Kim sent some nice materials. Did you have a chance, you guys, to sort of take a look, and you feel like you have the committee members a kind of a grounding and understanding in drones? And I know you've read the bill because we talked about it before.
Yeah, they read the materials, the letters, they looked at the states, and we looked at kind of all different reasons why people would be for or against. And so they have questions
Okay.
for y'all based on, a pro or con stance on the bill.
Good. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen a committee hearing or watched one on TVW or not, but typically what happens is you get a short synopsis from staff, objective committee staff of the bill. I don't even know if we need to go through that today. Then the chair of the committee, who's acting as chair today? Do we have a chair? Okay, great. Great.
That's Samantha.
Okay, Samantha, great. So the chair will call up those who have signed up to testify, usually pro and con. And so today I'll be the pro side of this bill, which is regulating drones, and Kim will be the con side. So do you feel like, I mean, I can give just objectively a brief summary of the bill because that's what staff does. Is that okay? And then we can go from there, chair, to call on testimony.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good. Now put it over to you. You're chairing it, so you're leading. So if so the chair would say call staff to give the report on the bill or something like that.
Okay, I'd like to call on the staff to give a brief overview on House Bill 1049 of the Technology Committee.
Okay, great, terrific. And I'll give that, and then I'll go into my other role as the pro side. So this bill, Madam Chair, is a bill that establishes a Class 2 civil infraction for launching an unmanned aircraft without federal authorization, unless the aircraft is labeled with contact information. That's the first of 3 things the bill does. The second thing establishes a Class 2 civil infraction for operating an unmanned aircraft over real property without consent unless federally authorized. And the third thing, and probably the most substantive part of the bill, it creates a cause of action for trespass against an unmanned aircraft operator who operates over real property without consent. So that's what the bill does. I'm happy to take questions as staff as well, Madam Chair, or you can call on the opponents.
Madam Chair, if anybody in the audience has any questions for staff about the bill in general, if you're confused about the bill in general, I think we covered it fairly well, that we should be okay. Anyone? No questions?
No questions.
Okay.
So you get to go first.
Okay, Madam Chair, you're going to you'll call on me. So my name, for the record, is Milt Dumit. I am representing those who are in support of this bill. Madam Chair, members of the committee, it's nice to be here. Let me just say that this bill has been a work in progress for several years. Actually, we've been talking about something like this. this bill. And I think it's really narrowly tailored to affect an outcome that respects the privacy of Washington state citizens while allowing this new technology to go forward and build. So this is not a new issue over the last few years. As you know, drones have been becoming more popular of late. So we've had federal rules that have passed recently, but also 35 states have adopted some drone legislation. Now, I would say, by the way, that's from National Conference of State Legislators website, if you ever want to sort of go to that and check out what the rest of the country is doing. So, and I will say that those 35 states, very few of them actually prohibit in some way drones, but some do. For example, some would prohibit drones for use in hunting. Some would prohibit the use of drones to take pictures of critical infrastructure. Some would criminalize the use interference with crime investigations for the use of zones. So it's not unprecedented that we have some regulation at the state level for the drone technology, and that's what this bill is really about, one's privacy. So it's contoured to allow for the consent of a private property owner if he or she wants a drone, for example, to deliver a package. But on the other hand, if there isn't consent, then there is a right of trespass civil action. And the idea is that these drones are potentially more invasive with our property. For example, you can float a drone up and look into your house from a second story, for example, where you would have an expectation of privacy and under normal circumstances. So again, I'm in support of this bill, advocating this bill, think it's a reasonable balance toward regulating drone technology while, again, allowing for the development of this important technology. And with that, Madam Chair, happy to take any questions.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question myself first. Mr. Dumit, the bill states that no operator may, without specific federal authorization, operate a UA or unmanned aircraft over real property without the consent of the property owner or occupant. As the bill also states, potential uses of drones include rescue operations, forest fire monitoring, and control. In the event of emergency, this drone regulation would prevent rescue missions from being operated on properties on which the owner or the person with an emergency has not given consent for a drone to fly over their property. Do you think that it's justified to sacrifice the safety of citizens to regulate drone flight?
That's a very good question, Madam Chair. I guess I would say, just in thinking in terms of an implied consent for an emergency situation, that may exist. That may exist, but maybe not. Maybe this is calling for express consent. But I would say for an emergency situation, the proponents of this bill would entertain an amendment to make an allowance for the type of situation that you reference.
Right. Any other questions? All right, Zane.
Mr. Dumit, since most of the drones sold today are small and have the potential to blend in with the environment, and there are many examples of this, how will this law be enforceable, especially the private property aspect of it, when you might not even see a drone?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question as well. And I think that's the purpose of this bill would, in some ways, allow a private sort of right of trespass action. So it sort of makes a private enforcement of and deterrence of use of drones without consent on private property. So, I mean, granted, I think it would be difficult to try and criminalize this use, and it would be really tricky to try and have law enforcement on the lookout for these things. But that's why trusting that individuals who have a concern about drones impeding one's privacy would be probably a good source of private enforcement. And I would just say, Madam Chair, as well, at your discretion, you can also call on the opponent, Kim, as well. But I'm happy to continue to take questions. That's at your discretion.
Okay. I'd like to call on Miss Kim Clausen, who is advocating against the bill.
Yes, Thank you, Chairman Samantha and members of the committee. My name is Kim Clausen, and I'm here representing the opponents to House Bill 1049. Can I start by asking if the committee had a chance to review the video on Prime Air Amazon delivery?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as you can imagine, this technology is exciting. The proponents of drone use for commercial operations, the sky is unlimited, if you will, and we're very excited about advancing this technology. We believe that this bill really has the probability of creating a patchwork quilt of regulations across the country that is basically going to stifle commercial delivery or commercial use of drones. If you can imagine back when airplanes were originally introduced into this country, if our federal government hadn't preempted states from engaging in advancing laws that would prohibit the use of airplanes, we would not have the kind of airplane system that we have today. We are very worried that this bill will allow municipalities and states to advance laws like this one, which is a property trespass right, which would require consent from property owners to fly over their property. If we had that when airplanes existed, we wouldn't have a flight system. We wouldn't be able to use airplanes. So we're very, very concerned with this. Secondly, we believe that the reasons behind this bill, which relate to privacy, to relate to surveillance, that there are already laws on the books today that deal with voyeurism, that deal with peeping Tom issues, that deal with trespass and nuisance laws. There are already laws on the books that prevent bad behavior or the bad use of this technology. So we are asking that the legislature not adopt a bill that is going to prohibit this technology and instead focus on the bad behavior that this bill is aimed at.
Any questions?
Yes. Okay. Ms. Clausen, so the Congressional Research Service, which is a branch of the Library of Congress that specifically deals with providing information to legislatures in the federal Congress. So in 2013, they published a report warning the use of drones for spying or harassment or voyeurism, as you actually previously brought up. It's already been documented in states, such as the story of a Seattle woman who had a drone flying around her window while getting dressed in the morning. And in many states where people have attempted to strike back at these drones, they have been subject to destruction of property laws. So why would you justify passing a bill that would strip others of their property? Well, we already have laws in place that would prevent them from doing any kind of self-defense whatsoever.
Can you rephrase that question one more time?
Essentially, we already have laws in place that would conflict with any kind of private deterrent of these drones, and many who do use drones for these purposes do not appear to be deterred by current laws. So why would we not pass a bill that would create a specific law to deter people from performing these actions?
Yeah, sorry. So first of all, I am not defending those who are using this technology in poor form or in illegal forms, right? We would very much be supportive of efforts to boost enforcement, whether that is with being able to work with your local law enforcement agency. But there are already, I want you guys to remember that there are already the FAA at the federal level. They have an advisory committee. They're working out all of these issues identifying where the states could beef up local laws as it relates to privacy. But the state, what this bill does is put in a trespass right where a property owner can say, no, you can't fly your drone over my property. That's different than saying, allow local law enforcement to focus on the bad behavior. And especially if somebody is staring in your window, right? That's already that's prohibited, that's illegal. And you should be able to have recourse. So we'd be all for boosting enforcement of current privacy laws, but not for laws that govern a technology. Did I answer your question?
Lucy?
And sorry, before we go on, can you guys, would it be helpful for you if they speak up a little bit? Or are you okay on volume?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you guys can just speak up, like use your boosting diaphragm voices, please.
This bill, if enacted, could basically potentially take away jobs from people because there are people that like drive the drones. So how do you think there would be a drastic change in the economy of Washington?
That's probably a question. Well, maybe for you. Go ahead. Then I'll take a shot.
Well,
yeah.
we think that this bill, if it were enacted, would significantly stifle innovation in this sector. So, and this sector has the promise of creating thousands of new jobs. So, but if a bill like this were to go forward, we believe that that entire sector could be harmed and jobs would be lost.
Madam Chair, I'll take a shot at it too. And I think, as we know, I mean, you're in this committee sitting in Bellevue, one of the technology hubs, in the country, certainly. So that's why this bill is an attempt to really recognize the thriving technology industry that we have in the state of Washington, while making a small inroad, because we're also very protective of our privacy here in the state of Washington, and that's where the proponents believe that we found the balance here by making this not a criminal activity but a private trespass right. And if somebody wants a package delivered, that should be able to occur. I think if they do, then they've essentially consented to have a drone fly over their property. So that's the balance that we think we've achieved here, to recognize our thriving technology economy in Washington, but also really recognizing our interest in protecting our own privacy.
Any other questions?
Ms. Clausen, it is projected that, quote, during the first 10 years after UASs are integrated into the national airspace, nearly 10,000 jobs are forecasted to be created in the state, along with over $7.8 million in economic impact. How will the passing of this bill hinder development of large businesses in Washington state, such as Amazon, Boeing, etc.?
We believe that this bill would effectively create no-fly zones, if you will, so that our delivery system we would not be able to deliver packages. So I think the previous speaker talked about, just over your own property. If we are delivering a package and it's flying over a neighborhood, and if we have one person objecting to that, right, that could eliminate the potential of delivering to that entire neighborhood. So that's why we're concerned with it.
Mr. Dumit, would you like to comment on that?
Sure, Madam Chair. I think the purpose of these committee hearings is to elicit this kind of really helpful question and answer. I think that the proponents would be amenable to some kind of amendment that talks about maybe not flying over a property, but terminating or stopping or stalling on a private property with a drone. So some pause in the movement of a drone for the purpose of, so that I think that would take care of the no-fly zone concern, and it really get at the crux of the bill, which is a drone that is stopping on private property and essentially intruding on one's privacy.
Ms. Cloud, you mentioned you're from Amazon and you're familiar with the FAA already in place regulations. and there's in place a regulation that limits 5 miles radius from the airport. And as I was looking over all the maps of Seattle and just in general seeing the layout of the city, there's if you go, there's not much space where the Amazon drone can deliver without infringing on the rights of going in the 5 mile radius. So how would the technology not infringe upon the already enacted rights?
Yeah, so we are working collaboratively with the FAA on trying to map out in the future whenever we're able to do delivery. So what we envision is that we will have a subset of the airspace where we are allowed to use drone delivery. So it would be below the, I think it's below 500 feet, but in between 200 and 400 feet would be kind of the thought of airspace for drones. I think that the 5 mile radius limit around airports really is to make sure that we're not interfering with manned airplanes, coming in and out of SeaTac or Boeing Airport. I think with our work collaboratively with the FAA, we would avoid, any of those problems. And so we would be working with them to identify, where our takeoff and landing ports are so that we're not interfering with the airport.
So, Ms. Paulson, maybe I'll just to interject, just time out for a sec. Just in the 7 or so minutes that we have left, 7 to 10 minutes, if what happens typically in the committee hearing is that, if the bill is going to be executed or voted on a day, sometimes the parties will go to their respective, private area to caucus with each other. Oftentimes, members give a little speech before they vote as well, just to get on the record why they're voting one way or another. So I just wanted to, so that you have time, I don't know how you'd want to do it, maybe debate amongst yourselves or have the chair call on people to explain sort of their vote and then have a vote. But hopefully you will vote one way or another based on what you've read and heard today on the bill, just to have that experience. So that would be my suggestion at this point, that we sort of move to the committee to deliberate.
Okay, so what I think would be a good idea is if we can have our minority party and our majority party get together and elect a person who wants to speak and give their reasons why you are deciding maybe as a party. And if there's somebody in the party who wants to vote on their own, maybe they're not going to vote with party at this time, maybe that person who is going to give that speech is somebody who hasn't already asked a question, so that they could be some of those. And then those of us on the floor, I would also like you to be ready to think about how you might vote if this does get passed onto the floor. Yes?
Wait, so if you vote against your party, does that mean you have to explain your reasoning? Or
Then you would explain your reasoning as well. Okay, so I will give you guys approximately 1 minute. And while they're talking quietly, like you're whispering, can I ask you all a question? Would it be possible, or would it be likely that environmental questions would come during this time as well, about in terms of drones and like the orcas and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually another bill introduced that prohibited the use of drones near orca whales. It was in the same committee. It did not advance either.
That one, yeah.
And I think that there was some interest in expanding that to other endangered species as well. So, but yes, the questions related to 1049 would also be applicable to drones anywhere else.
Okay, so what would, can you quickly say for those of the people who are listening here, what might be a response on the pro and on the con side in terms of drones and environmental species or environmental concerns that would come up with the use of drones getting close to, bears or puffins or orcas or etc.?
Right. So what I'll take that first.
Please,
Is that
no, please,
okay?
yes, absolutely.
What I would say is that while we have no intent of flying near an orca whale, right? I think that so what I will tell you is that we were neutral on the orca whale bill. But what I will say is that if you do expand it, if you can imagine the number of endangered species, right? Whether it's the marbled murrelet bird, whether it's, eagles, right? And if you have many no-fly zones over those areas and we have no idea where those are, right? That's going to create, again, a situation where we're going to have these no-fly zones and commercial delivery will essentially be prohibited because we're not going to have, clear pathways for delivery.
And I guess my only add to that, which I think is just objectively speaking, it's the kind of thing where you do have to be, I think, targeted. And so maybe in relation to an endangered species, there you could add a specific intent element. In other words, that the drone, you're intending to use this drone to invade,
to harass
or get into the vicinity of, disrupt. That's right. So that's
to even take pictures, right? I mean, I think you could prohibit the use for those certain activities for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you. And so as your teacher, not just a observer here, to the committee members, from what I heard, there was a lot of suggestions of perchance being in favor of the bill with some amendments as well. We wouldn't necessarily have to write amendments right now, but thinking about, I would vote in favor of this with amendments if you were thinking about voting against. That's another possibility. But in terms of Chairwoman, who would you like to call on to present your side or the other side?
I am going to call on the minority party first to explain their reasoning.
I'm one of the representatives.
Sure.
I'm Olivia Del Sarto from the minority party, and we are very anti this bill because we believe it's going to stifle our economy and also all of our technological prospects in Washington State. And also, Amazon is already working with the FAA on laws to help them fly their drones and deliver packages in commercial areas. And we also don't want to create no-fly zones for these drones, so we are anti this bill.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the minority party's view.
All right, and majority party, who's going first?
So say how you're going to vote and why you think so.
Okay. I'm going to vote for. We were going to vote for the bill. All right. Because HB 1049 only restricts drone usage from real estate, and according to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are almost 3 million homes in the state of Washington, and the average size of houses in the U.S. is about 2,600 feet, and the total area in the state of Washington is 71,297 square miles. This means that I did the math. Only approximately 0.39% of the area of Washington State would be restricted would be off limits to drones, which doesn't inconvenience drone flyers too much.
Any other arguments?
I'm going to vote against House Bill 1049 for the simple reason that there is not an amendment yet that would prohibit private trespass action against drones that have not stayed in the property, which would be the primary. Really, that would be the decider, because at the moment there is no exception for something like prime air that's simply flying 200 feet above someone's house. If that exception were to be added in via amendment, then I would vote yes. But at the moment, no.
Okay, and at this point,
I'm going to call for a vote for the passing of HB 1049. All those who would like to vote yay, say aye.
Aye. Oh, that was sorry. Oh, wait, sorry.
Sorry.
Try again.
All those who are voting in favor of passing the bill, say aye.
That's great.
And all those who are who would like to not pass the bill, say nay.
Nay.
So you get to call the vote, Madam Chair.
So the final vote is 3 in favor and 6 against, so the bill does not pass to the floor.
Good Amazon supporters there in Bellevue. That's good to know. But I will just say, just in closing, and then we'll ask Kim to close as well. This is really like a committee hearing goes. You know, they're really good penetrating questions. The members, you as committee members, are essentially agents for the broader body, so they will defer to your expertise on this as well. So committee hearing is the public's opportunity to get a chance to participate in the process, and also the members' opportunity to really dig in and ask some of the kinds of questions that you guys asked today. So I'll let Kim have her closing remarks, then we'll talk really quickly about next week, and then we'll say goodbye for this week.
No, I just really thank you for the opportunity for being able to participate in this. I think you guys are great. You guys had great questions, a lot of research. I think the gentleman over on that side of the asked me a question about the FAA stuff that I actually haven't even really read. So really appreciate all the research and prep work that you did in advance of today.
Yes, you represented your body, the House or Senate, well. So real quickly, Corey, for next week then, we're going to have a debate on a bill. Did we decide, is it going to be carbon standard?
I thought we decided nuclear. But we can do the carbon bill if we'd like. I saw that the nuclear bill has been put in the X file.
Yeah. That's pretty much the name X file tells it all pretty much.
Is that the new
Cool name.
bill?
What was that?
Nuclear.
The small modular nuclear?
This is
Or-
allowing nuclear energy as an alternative under the
under
initiative. Yeah.
under
yeah.
I-937.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean though that we can't go ahead and debate it, particularly if you have somebody that can play a role from a real advocate of the bill in the Tri-Cities, which is going to be important there. So just because it's in the X file doesn't mean we can't debate it. So why don't you guys decide? Let me know. I will just simply at that, for the next, I'm planning on just being the presiding officer and really having hopefully a lively but well-managed debate with a final vote, as if the bill is live, even if it isn't. So that's next time.
Fantastic. And that's 2 weeks from today.
Yep, that's right. Yep. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, thank you
guys.
so much for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kim. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.